Okay, welcome back to UPress Play, a sports show produced by FAU Student Media. I'm Megan, and with me is Maddox and Morgan, and we are live streaming on OwlTV's YouTube. How are you guys today? I'm a little jittery. I've had a little bit too much caffeine, so I'm going to try to get it together. But we're in our third week of classes now? We just finished our third week?
Yeah.
Yeah, how's it going so far?
Going good. Classes are going well so far. Caught a couple of games, trying to get involved in doing some other stuff for sports media, so that's fun. But enjoyed some football games last night, and tonight's gonna be some good college basketball games, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing really good. I think I only have 4 classes this semester, so I'm kind of cruising. But yeah, I can't wait to start hammering it down on the FAU sports.
Yeah, I know. I'm really excited because with 2 of my classes, it's kind of like we're working on long projects throughout the semester. And I'm just excited to be at that point where now I get to work on things that I'm going to get to use going forward with my career. But yeah, so on the topic of FAU housekeeping, their basketball team is now officially 10-10, which I think I can say we're all a little bit surprised by that. They're 3-4 in the AAC right now. Since the last time that we were here, they beat Charlotte 75-64, and then they lost to UAB 81-76, and then a loss to Tulane 80-65. They did defeat Rice 75-73, and then it was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
They lost to North Texas 77-64. And in that game, Brendan Lorient, who is a former FAU player, he had 17 points. So it's kind of shocking to see. We were talking about this a little bit before we got to the show, but all of their former players are doing incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have to double check on John Nell's stats. I mean, he recently got injured, like a wrist injury. Plus, with Arkansas, when John Calipari went from Kentucky to Arkansas, he brought in a lot of players from SEC basketball, as well as bringing in John L. Davis, because he said in my final year I want to play with the greatest coach in college basketball. And with that roster of all these guys from these big name programs going to Arkansas, it's going to be tough for someone like John Nell, who had great numbers in a mid-major, but granted, went from a mid-major to a big conference, and trying to compete for minutes against players that already have so much experience. I forgot his name, but I know his last name is Theo or something, or Theoro, the guy who went from Tennessee to Arkansas. He's been playing big minutes and been playing great basketball. So for John Nell, I mean, not so great so far, but I mean, hopefully he's kind of gets back into the rhythm of things, especially since coming back from an injury. But yeah, as you were saying, Megan, Elijah Marin's been playing lights out, Vlad Golden's been playing lights out right now. Michigan under Dusty Mays.
Yeah, last week he had a 30-point game, which is just, I mean, it's incredible. I'm happy for them that they're all having such success. But yeah, I think with Davis, he's probably struggling too, because he was kind of used to being that number one guy that just always got the ball. And now he has to get used to kind of stepping back and just becoming a player that isn't always want to. And I feel like with everyone else, they were used to that already. So now they're getting the chance to kind of step up and show what they can actually do, because they didn't really get to do that as frequently at FAU because of John L.
Yeah, and actually kind of a little jumping ahead from what we're going to be discussing, but I think for this team in particular, for this FAU men's basketball team, that's why I always brought up whenever we talked about this roster last semester and whatnot, saying how almost all these guys average double digits at their respective programs. So now it's you're coming to this new program with a new coach, you're trying to get used to this new system, and every single guy was used to being that one guy. It's now I got to share the basketball with all these other guys who average double digits. So again, that was like an upside, but also like a downside too, especially when you're not used to one another as a team. Where it's like, I'm used to having the ball, I want to keep the ball. Being like, now we gotta like share the ball and whatnot.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. Like they need to still learn how to like do it like as a team and as a role. Because again, like we have guys like Caleb Glenn who goes off for 20 points, and then we have Kiki Tandy who goes off. Like certain guys step up, and the other guys, sometimes they don't know what to do.
Like Baba, he was like played great first couple of weeks, and then after that, kind of went down a little bit. But I was watching the first half of that North Texas game. And he was this like 6'11" guard, which you really don't see 6'11" guards at all, which is a huge upside for Florida Atlantic. He's like been shooting a couple 3-pointers. I mean, that's really cool. That's an X factor. It's like a unicorn thing to see a guy with that size, that frame, shooting threes when typically he should be like under the post. So that's good to see. But also, I feel like a lot of players are trying to find their identity still. And I always bring up the fact that we're in March. We're almost in March, and you guys already played 20 out of your, I think, 32, 31 games. And you guys got to start stepping up soon because, sure, in conference play, everyone plays each other in the conference tournament, but you got to start knowing what your identity is now because sooner or later, they haven't played that many tough non-conference opponents. Some of the schools they defeated early on aren't doing so hot. Oklahoma State, I checked a couple weeks ago, they are like, I think, they have a losing record in their conference, not overall a great record. And College of Charleston, they're doing okay so far. But those wins not going to be really helpful for them in the long run. So winning their conference is super, super vital for them to have postseason success and make it back to March Madness for a third straight year. So they have to start stepping up as a team, know what our identity is offensively and defensively. Because early in the year, early in the season, they're great offensively, no idea what they're doing defensively. Now it's like they know what they're doing defensively, no idea what they're doing offensively. Now it's kind of like they don't know really what to do on both sides of the ball now. So.
Do you think that there's like a way for them to do that though prior to the AAC tournament, or do we kind of feel like this season, it's to put it this way, but like is a lost cause? It's
kind of funny because you have some like last year, I forgot what team did it, but there was a losing record team, and then they win their tournament and go to the then they went to the March Madness. So honestly, like sometimes all it takes is like maybe it clicks right when the tournament starts, even if. Yeah, even
sometimes that postseason modes, like doesn't matter how you get in as long as you're already in. So even though everyone's in the conference tournament, it's like just you gain whatever seed you get in your conference tournament. As long as you're there, now you gotta start having that playoff postseason mindset in.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think that I need to point out is that defensively we've been really bad. We're 12th in the conference. Defensively, 77.5 points per game. We let up that many points. And nationally, we're 319th out of 364 teams. That's really bad. We need to get our defense play up right away.
Plus, I think also going back to what I remember Megan saying last semester, where this non-conference schedule was kind of built by Dusty before he went to Michigan. So that was like that non-conference schedule was more for a team that already had back-to-back March Madness appearances, who already know how the team clicks and whatnot, versus now with John Jacobs, new coach, new coaching staff, new entire roster, working with that non-conference schedule is not easy, particularly when you're playing in Charleston for 12 straight days and like not having a home game until the end of like November. So having almost an entire month of no home game. So it's very difficult as a team to try to find time to build as a unit while you're competing in back-to-back like tournaments and invitationals. So I mean, the schedule wasn't so good in their favor, which like not like on the fall of John Jacobs or even Dusty May, but the non-conference schedule wasn't in their favor. And of course, sooner or later, this team's going to get a rhythm. Even if not this year, most definitely next year will be a huge threat. Because watching like the North Texas game, the commentators are saying this FAU team has a great offense, a lot of great players. They just don't know what to do so far.
Yeah. But I mean, even though that non-conference schedule was kind of built around Dusty May, they still, besides, their loss to Drake, Seton Hall, and then Florida Gulf Coast, I would say those three kind of bad. But besides that, I mean, the Michigan State game, they're currently ranked 20th in the country, so that's not really that bad of a loss. But the way that they played, even though they lost to UCF, that game was incredible. Like, they played fantastic, and I feel like we saw a better play out of them in that non-conference schedule. And it's interesting too, just looking at how everything's changed. I mean, John Jacobs, when we spoke to him, you know, he was emphasizing how he wanted to constantly shoot like 100, like that was their offensive goal. And that's what they were doing at the beginning. You know, they, against Charleston, they had 116, 94, 99, and they're putting up high numbers offensively. But it seems like the past month, really in January, ever since the Memphis game, the numbers have just, offensively, they're not shooting as well as they were at the beginning of the season, which has been a really interesting transition because I feel like the offense is what he's emphasized, and I'm not really sure what is going on there.
I feel like also, like, looking at the College of Charleston game, the very end, I kept bringing this up, how at the very last play, the game-winning shot, I believe, or the shot that sent them to, like, overtime, and they had, I think it was, like, Kiki Tandy, who, again, no like, shame to Kiki Tandy. I think he's, like, 6'2" or something, like, one of like, the shorter players on the team, and they had him guarding on the perimeter while Trey and I think Matas and I think also maybe Baba were also on the floor. All of them, those tall players were all like under the post near the basket. No one was outside the perimeter trying to block a shot. Stuff like that, like you're trying to find where their identity was defensively, it really wasn't that well. I mean, they're trying to figure out what they're going to do offensively. You have the tall players under the post while the entire, like the game-winning shot, you have one like the shortest like players trying to block the shot, which I think that's not really good thing, good way to coach offensively, like lay out what to do for that play.
I think one of the other things we have to remember is that Dusty May was here for a few years before the first March Madness run. So, you know, he was able to find the team's identity and build the team slowly, and then everybody, Jonelle and Elijah and Vlad popped off. So it might just have to take 2 to 3 years until John Jacobs really finds the identity of FAU basketball, and then we go back to March Madness.
Yeah, but I feel like also, like, I keep bringing this up, but like it seems like lately, all over the all different sports leagues, pro football, pro basketball, college basketball, it seems like now new coaches coming in after like 2 years, you don't have to bring nothing to show, you're gone. And especially not for Florida Atlantic men's basketball, where it seems like that's like the strongest suit, the strongest market for Florida Atlantic right now. Like not really much football right now, it's men's basketball. And so like the program went back-to-back March Madness appearances. Now we got this guy, Jacobs, learned they're two of the best head coaches right now all of college basketball, and bring on these big name players. It's gonna be a great team, and they're just still trying and struggling and whatnot. So I feel like they have to figure out what they're gonna do this year, but also for next year, work on that non-conference schedule, try and work as a unit, as a team. Even though a couple of those players like Baba and I think Trey as well, like they're gonna be graduating, but try and figure out that new roster and whatnot, and the current roster you have after a year, how they're all going to mingle one another during the off season, because they got a whole entire team, and then like a couple months after they started the regular season, so they had very little time to really know what they were as a team identity as a team, versus other schools within the American, which is kind of why they've been struggling against the American, especially since American's one of the best college basketball conferences overall. You can like argue about the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10, but also the American, like last postseason, so many upsets in that tournament. Everyone was like so close against one another in those games. Even Temple, who were like one of the lower seeds, took out Florida Atlantic in the semifinals, which no one could have predicted. So like this conference is unpredictable, and this conference is a very good conference. So they have to figure out what their identity is. But also I feel like in a way like time is not really on Jacobs' side, in my opinion, just because, as you said, Morgan, like a couple of years ago, Dusty May started, and like after 4 years, then they figured out who they were, and then they got to the back-to-back postseason. I don't think Florida Atlantic's gonna be that patient anymore. It's like, hey, we just went back-to-back. We got a lot of money. We're getting a lot of TV deals. We want to show we're a good program, and we're kind of struggling a little bit. Next year, gotta do better, and probably the year after that, gotta do better. We gotta get back into the postseason, either the NIT or whatnot. We want to prove that, hey, those past 2 years, back-to-back years, were not a fluke. That Final Four was not a fluke. We are actually building something in this program. So that's what I think they have to do.
You know, it's funny because I actually did think, that Tom Herman was going to stay for at least 2 seasons. And then he got let go after, like, midway through this previous season. So maybe he doesn't have as much of a timetable as we think.
Yeah, like I think we're also getting like overall we're kind of like jumping the gun on this. Like,
yeah,
our listeners think like we're not like saying like Jake is like time's on his side, but I'm saying like with Dusty May early on in the program, it was like okay, we'll let you get 5 years, figure out where you want to do, and during those 5 years they went to back-to-back postseason. Now it's like with Jacobs, we just had back-to-back postseason. We got all this money, we got all this like attention out to us, and so far the team isn't looking that great. It's okay, but if you can't get it this year, you gotta get it next year because the conference is slowly growing and growing.
Yeah.
Particularly now, since most sports overall, if the head coach doesn't get you like a success, and they're like for a second, even third year, you're done. Like there's some rare instances, like with Chris Ignetti for Indiana football, went from JMU, a former FCS, and then from FCS in like a mid-major football program, and then he went to Indiana and then took them immediately to the college football playoffs. So there are some like little instances where that has happened. It doesn't happen to all, but that has happened. So you could, in your first year, take a team to success.
Yeah, so, but it's difficult. And also, obviously the team just came together a couple of months ago, and also 7 of the players like are international. So we have the 2 from Lithuania, and they had to get used to just living here as well. So I'm sure that it's been a really difficult transition for them, and also just the other players, Baba coming from FSU, completely different athletic program there compared to here. So it's really just an adjustment for everyone. And I kind of don't like the trends where now it's like coaches have 2 years. Because it's not really enough time. I think like 3 or 4 years, now that coaches are getting fired after like 2 seasons if they don't have success, it's kind of like they're not allowing them time. Like with Dusty, he had his time. He had his 4 years. He was able to build up a team. But you can't regroup a whole program within a year.
I think also that's why like a lot of times people are saying that Trey and Todd Abernathy, both of them from the previous couple of years under Coach May, staying with the program is very important, especially with Trey Carroll, playing those meaningful minutes and now returning to the team. Again, they were mentioned on the North Texas broadcast, they're saying that's very important because him not only just showing around the campus, also knowing the culture and whatnot, but like, hey, I went to back-to-back postseason runs. I went to the March Madness, and I remember when I was speaking with like Baba Miller and whatnot during the preseason like media conference thing at the Alley. He was saying like one of the things I wanted to do when I came here was to go to like get a huge postseason. I know this program has made it back-to-back. So with having like someone like Trey Carroll and Todd Abernathy, who also had experience going back-to-back and learned from Coach May, as well as having someone like John Jacobs, who learned under, again, 2 of the best coaches in all college basketball right now, learning under Mark Few at Gonzaga and then Scott Drew at Baylor. Those 2 programs also made it to Final Fours in the championships past 5-6 years ago. They made it to the postseason multiple times. So having that coaching staff, having that player on that roster currently, who both knew what it was like playing in Paradise and winning at Paradise and having that experience going there, but as well as that coaching staff is very important.
But it's hard to kind of predict like how the rest of the season's going to play out. Maybe Morgan's right that once the AAC tournament happens, that
everything clicks.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's what we can hope for. But their next game is actually on Wednesday against UTSA. Let's see, ESPN is predicting FAU to win, but it should be a close game. UTSA right now, they are 9-10, and FAU's 10-10, and they're both 3-4 in the conference.
Basically the same, yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's a pretty even matchup.
I do gotta say, like Florida Atlantic, I already know Florida Atlantic has to keep an eye on I think it's jersey number is 0 or 2, Primo Spears, one of the best like scorers in all of college basketball right now. So they have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, he's averaging 21 points per game, which is absolutely insane.
It's actually funny. UTSA and Florida Atlantic are pretty similar statistically. UTSA is the only team that's worse than FAU in points allowed. And then they're third in points scored, and FAU is second in points scored. So we should, statistically, we are better than them points, scoring points, and against the points.
Yeah.
So in theory, and we're home, like we're
they'll have the
here.
home court advantage.
So we're kind of hoping for a win here.
I think also with from learning just about learning about college sports and just again sports in general, knowing that something on paper is not going to be like
of course.
what you see like on the field. I'm not going to bring up like some stuff previously the football postseason, but that's stuff we have seen where like stuff on paper looked good, but once you go on the field, once you go on the court, it's going to change immediately. It doesn't matter. Points, stats don't matter. I remember we're like I'll be in press conferences for like coach from the football games, and having like reporters hearing them tell the coach stats. He's like, okay, that's cool. Like those stats are all right, or like the other team has better at this statistically. All right, cool. I mean, once on the football field, we'll see what happens. But a lot of times, coaches really don't care much about the statistics because they know once on the court or once on the field, it could change. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Really I mean, we have seen that happen so many times where it's just like you think that this one team's gonna completely blow out the other, and then they have an off day, or certain players have off days, and we've seen this happen recently with the NFL. But Morgan and I are both a little salty. But so let's go on to, we'll currently do our live reads. So if you're a club or student organization wanting to promote an event you're hosting, or you just want to promote yourselves, DM UPress Sports on Instagram with a 3 to 4 sentence paragraph, and we'll read it live on air. So besides the men's team, the women's team isn't doing so hot either right now in basketball. They're right now 9-12, and they're currently 1-7 in the AAC. They just lost to North Texas on Friday, 73-61. They brought in, I believe, 8 new players this season, and Jennifer Sullivan, she was really emphasizing how she felt like a lot of these transfers, like Stephanie Ingram, like they're really going to help the team expand and have more success than they have had the last 2 years. I remember, I haven't covered women's basketball yet this year, but last season I basically beat reported on women's basketball, and it was kind of rough. They had all the difficulties with my mind.
Anaya Hubbard?
Yes, yeah. Anaya Hubbard, which she actually had some crazy stuff happen to her. She transferred to UAB, and then I believe she got she's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, I looked at the roster. She's
arrested. So yeah, she's not on the team anymore.
I did not even know that, my God.
Yeah, so I saw that she had announced that she was entering the portal again. So I really wish that we had answers about what happened last year.
Like what you and JD were discussing from like what your investigative journalism you guys covered, just what I assume happened. I just kind of assumed what happened because I really think it was a clear definition why, but for just what they hinted at, you're like, okay, and like know what happened.
Yeah, it seems like there was some sort of team, like I don't know what was going on. There was probably some drama within the players. Because Anaya was their best player, and then she didn't play for, I believe it was like a month stretch.
I think it was like 8 straight games. Like didn't play
at all. She wasn't on the bench. She wasn't there present at all. And then JD and I did the little investigation, and then the next game she was back on the bench. And she had wrap on her hand. So I don't know if that was their way of trying to. This is all speculation. I do want to put that out there. But she had her hand all wrapped up and was on the bench again. So I'm like, did they just put her on the bench just so we would stop asking anything?
For me, I've covered a couple of the women's games, called a couple of the games, as well as for one of my classes. I actually worked the camera for the recent game against Charlotte. But for that game against North Texas I called recently, the team also really just didn't look that good. They looked okay, but still, again, problems with turnovers, no one getting the rebounds. And with North Texas, they're like one of the best teams right now in the conference. I think they're like second right now in conference play, like a 7-1 record. And they have some of the great players on their team. Like I was bringing up the fact that like Tamisha Lampkin, their like starting guard, she like led the team in points per game, field goal percentage, like block shots, everything. She's won like she's also, I think, top like 50, I think, or something, like also in points overall. So like she's like one of those like top players. And I was like, okay, that's who they should be going after. Like Florida should be trying to keen in on her to try like stop her from having a good game. She didn't really have that too good of a game, like 11 points. But then you got someone like Jacqueline Moore, who went 4 for 6 from behind the arc. Like she like literally did not miss a single shot. First like 6 shots from the field, she did not miss a single one. So with that depth and whatnot, Florida Atlantic just kind of struggled defensively finding out who is their top player, and then like, okay, another team has some depth, and Florida Atlantic doesn't really have depth. Like with looking at North Texas on the box score, 4 players all have double digits. For Florida Atlantic, only 2, and that was new players. Tazaya Jenks, who led with 23 points, led both teams in points with 23, and then Stephanie Ingram with 12. So look at how Florida Atlantic's playing. I mean, they started pretty good in the beginning. They were, I think, 9-4 or something.
Yeah, they started out the season really hot. So I was like, oh, this is going to work. And they're making clear adjustments.
Exactly, yeah.
And then the last 5 games, all losses.
Yeah. And also with the fact that, like, to me, I still think, like, this is definitely a make or break a year for Coach Sullivan. And I really don't know. I still don't understand why she is still, like, coaching in a way, because previous 3 years, no winning record. Last season was her like one of her worst seasons since she started was 5-25. Last season like 11-18. One of her like worst seasons under her. Never had a winning record. Still has a job and still coaching this team, which kind of left me kind of flabbergasted. But also, I remember hearing how like some players are like appreciate her and whatnot. Like players like her, as well as like a couple of games they play against opponents, and they almost like defeated them, so maybe that kind of led someone to be some like the athletic director or whatnot, be like, no, we'll keep you like another year because it looks like you might be getting somewhere. But to me, it's like, again, like right now, all sports right now is like, if you don't have not showing any improvement in the next couple of years, like you got to be gone, because we need to start having some winning record now, because everyone's watching women's college basketball. It's like now I really want to start building a program, and so you want to start like winning games, and right now your head coach 4 straight years, and right now not a winning record at all. And to me, I never liked that argument of like, oh, well, the players like her, or like the players like the coach. Like I get that, but also at the end of the day, like wins matter. Like of course, have a good like relationship with a head coach, a coach that like is like a teacher, a mentor that like helps you like a second or third parent. Like it's good to have that relationship with your coach, but also at the end of the day, I came to this program because I wanted to win, and we are now winning right now. We have not had a winning record in 4 straight years right now. So it's good to have players and coaches, players that love you. But at the end of the day, it's like wins matter the most. And so far, we have not had any wins. I got to check how many games they've lost right now. But I know like a couple of weeks ago, they were 12
losses. Yeah, well, it's interesting too, because like I just said, they're currently last 5 games they've lost. And they did the same thing last season. Like they had how many games? 1, 2.
It's like about like an 8-game like losing streak, and right now
they're
on a 6-game losing streak.
An 8-game losing streak, and that streak was when Anaya Hubbard was out. And right now they're kind of doing the same exact thing.
Their largest win streak was 3 wins.
This season?
Yeah, it was an exhibition game against Fort Lauderdale, which I also covered, and that was like a blowout. But then they had a loss against Florida, granted it's Florida. Then Mercer, North Florida, Bethune-Cookman, all in Boca won all of those games, and then going to Stetson and a DeLand, Florida loss, but then able to win against Florida. So before Thanksgiving, they were 4-2.
The big thing that I see with the schedule is that there's a clear difference between how they play against American Athletic Conference opponents and then their non-conference opponents, who all of their wins are like lesser tier teams. Kennesaw State, Georgia Southern, FIU, like the Mercer,
the
North Florida.
Game.
Against Fort Lauderdale. Like all these teams are like
crazy.
All these teams are like kind of lesser than like American Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
And then of course they're going to lose to Florida.
That's like the same thing though with the football team as well. Like their only wins were against
that's true.
Wagner, which is an FCS school,
FIU.
And FIU, which basically plays like an FCS school, but also lost to an FCS school. So like their only wins are against those beatable teams that aren't really impressive. So especially for like Florida Atlantic, I mean, their only wins in conference is 1, and that was against East Carolina. They won 64-48 on the road in Greenville.
Yeah.
And that was early January. So they had like some success very beginning conference, and after that, they've lost their last 6.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they did last season. They started out with a loss, and then they had a 3-game win streak, and then went on the huge 8-loss streak, and then kind of went back and forth. And now
they ended it pretty good. Like, they ended pretty good. I think in one last 3 or 4, the last 4 or something. They ended pretty well, but then
it's unfortunate that we're seeing the same trend occur now, and especially because Maya Perry, she's having such a standout season. She's currently averaging
I think like about 15, 16 points a game.
Yeah, she's averaging 15 points per game, 3 rebounds. You know, last season she averaged 11 points, so she's already surpassing her last season's average. And she's in her 2nd year with FAU after transferring from Ohio State, and she's currently a junior, so she's going to have 1 more year where she can play. Do we think that she might transfer if they don't have success generated in the last stretch of the season?
I think overall it might depend on a couple factors. One, if she has a good relationship with Coach Sullivan, maybe she might want to stay for her final year and graduate at Florida Atlantic. I mean, she's getting a degree here at the program as well. Like, now want to like have to deal with the whole like transfer the credits and everything. Or if Coach Sullivan does get fired, which I think most likely will be a realistic thing, because it should happen, and maybe with that, also again, her relationship with Coach Sullivan might also deter her. So maybe she just goes to, like, again, transfers maybe back to Ohio State or to another program, or maybe it's like, you know what, I might just stay because Coach Sullivan's gone, I might stay. But I mean, she's like the star player right now for the team, and the team's not looking so good. I mean, looking at their like stats in the American from what I did a game, I think Saturday, and they were 11th in scoring offense, 9th in scoring defense, 10th in scoring margin, last in free throw percentage, last in field goal percentage, 11th in rebounding defense, 12th in blocked shots. So they're not great defensively, and they're 194th nationally in bench points with only 18. So they have no depth. They don't have an identity defensively, and they're struggling offensively as well. Like, the whole team is not coming together. I feel like it all goes up to the top because the past 3 years you have losing records. Not like, a couple games down 500. It's like 7, 8, 9, 10 games. Her first year, 20 games below 500. Yeah. Like, you have to fix that. That's something to be fixed.
Her first year, they went 5-25.
Yeah.
Which that's rough. And then it was 12-18. Last year, 11-19. Now this season, it's 9-12 so far. I think that, it's definitely time to kind of have that conversation on, are they going to make the choice to let her go? Because, like we were just talking about, a lot of places are giving coaches 2 seasons and then they're out of here. And it's surprising that they haven't followed the same trend with her. I'm not sure why, but I can't imagine that it's all just because the players love her.
Yeah, that's like one thing. That's one thing I heard was like some of them like love her, but also it's like past couple seasons going against those big teams and like having like still losing, but like losing like a small margin. Oh, maybe they're starting to build something up. Let's keep it for another year and start to build around that. But it's like after 3-4 years and still not a winning record. Yeah. Like something's up. I don't think it's the players, because Nia Hubbard was your star player last year, and again, we don't know what happened. Could have been a fuss with the coach staff or within the team or whatever, and then she left. So your star player left the team. Now you got someone like Maya Perry, who's had also a career year, and team ain't looking at good. You also brought in some players like Desai Jenks, who had a good year with Cincinnati. You got in someone like Stephanie Ingram, who leads, I think, the conference in assists and one of the best assists nationally. So you have like great players, but the results are not showing at like what they should be. They're not.
Yeah. I don't know. It just also, as like I watch them play, their shot selection is awful. Like, I don't know. Have you seen any of their games this season?
I have not.
You have not? Okay. I went, my parents came down it was last weekend. We went to the women's game, and then we went to the hockey game, which unfortunately they both were losses. But in the basketball game, like, they just go under the rim and kind of just chuck it up. And I don't understand why that continues to happen, because that's exactly what they did last season, which was a major issue, because you can't just throw a ball in the air and expect it to go in the hoop. And I don't know why the same thing is still happening back-to-back seasons, when Sullivan should recognize that and focus on that at practice. You know, you have to go. I mean, I used to play basketball, so I still remember how to do like a proper layup. And like just try to use.
Dogging on them.
I'm not. Well, okay. I'm sorry. I'm frustrated, because I really would like the women's team to have some success, and it was frustrating last season just watching the same thing occur with just going under the rim and kind of just throwing the ball up in the air, rather than focusing on like hitting off the backboard or, you know, and I'm not saying that every single player does this, obviously. Maya Perry is doing amazing, and Jada Moore's doing well again this season.
I mean, that could be also, we have not been to any of their, like, we have not seen any of their practices, so that could be something they've been discussing in practice, but again, at the end of the day, it's what's happening with the coaching, and the team is not doing that well offensively, not doing that great defensively. They're having these top players on their team who are doing great in the conference, and again, the results are just not showing up on for their favor. And they started the season off hot with like 9 wins, and then all of a sudden losing the last 6. Like, they had something going for them, and then drastically shifted, drastically took a left turn. So now I got to figure out what is the center of the problem. Again, for me, I just think just looking at overall records, past couple of years under Coach Sullivan's never been a winning record, and made me question why she's still though with the team. Not really bashing, but just thinking there should be some accountability there. Like, having some great games. Like, if Tazai Jenks put up 23 points, if you have have a player who's one of the best assists, if you have someone like Maya Perry who's having a career year with averaging 15 points a game, and you're not getting those wins, like, that hurts something up, and that could just go. And whenever something like that happens, everyone points to one thing, which is the coaching staff. They're the ones who end up teaching the players what to do, making the plays, everything. At the end of the day, it goes to coaching.
If you have 3 straight losing seasons, then, like, I'd be surprised if you get another chance. If you have 3,
I mean, she's already in her 4th straight year, so I was thinking, like,
how about we'll make you the coach, and I'll start playing basketball again. Okay?
Just say we're gonna see if there's any walk-ons. Just see if there's any tryouts. Megan will stay one more year.
No, my basketball days, that was back in middle school. I don't think I would do much better. But speaking on FAU teams that are actually having success, technically it's a club team, but the FAU hockey, they're 14-2-1 right now, and they're doing incredible. They just beat Lynn University. Their first game was on the 24th, where actually the program board funded 100 students taking them to the game because it was in Fort Lauderdale. So yeah, they funded 100 students going to the game, and then they also, I believe, all got jerseys, which is pretty cool. I would have liked one, but they beat Lynn that night for student activities night 15-2, and then the next day they beat them 18-2, which that is insane. I don't know, either of you are hockey fans, but
I try to watch as much as I can, because I really never been a college person, but then recently starting to watch the Pat McAfee show, and how, because he loves sports overall, he really got me into watching playoff hockey, especially since with playoff basketball happening at the time. Every single game was like a giant blowout, and hockey was like 1-2 goals for every single game. So watching it a little bit, and also I'm like seeing all the fights, and just the high scoring games, just the players hitting each other, whatnot. I'm like, this is like a physical game. This is fun to watch.
Every hockey game I root for a fight. Like that, it's so entertaining.
It's so great because the refs just sit there and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3. Oh, guys, stop. Okay, now I'm gonna break it up.
Now they actually in the NFL.
Wow.
NHL.
If the NFL does that, they'll give viewership. The NFL allows that. But we just saw it with AJ Brown and Marshawn Lattimore going against each other every single drive. That was fun.
That was entertaining.
He was not covering well.
But
Lattimore. Oh my goodness.
What was I? Oh, anyway, the NHL, they break up fights now. Mm-hmm. They don't really let players. They do, but back 20 years ago, the fights
they would sit there. Yeah.
It was insane. Yeah. But with their 2 wins, I believe they officially clinched the tournament.
My question is how can this not become like a club, like an actual, like it becomes like an actual team?
And
I feel like
that is a good question.
I think there's a lot of paperwork that might have to go through that. I don't know like logistics. Like anyone like knows like club hockey sports like within the club hockey can like let us know exactly.
We have the hockey social media manager.
Yeah, so if you like know like there's a way like they could, because I feel like that'd be interesting to see, because they were Division 3 and then got another team for Division 2.
Yeah.
So they moved up and they added another team. And it's like, okay, we're going to do Division 1. Okay, now is there a way where instead of being a club, they actually become an actual hockey club?
I mean,
like Florida is like right now like the hockey mecca right now. We're just insane.
Florida, which is so weird because we don't even have snow. Actually, it snowed in Jacksonville this week. Yeah. My sister's right off the border. She's in Georgia right now, and she FaceTimed me, and she's like, "It's snowing," and I'm like, "Okay, you're lucky." But
I remember telling the advisor West, I was like, "My God, it's snowing in my city." I'm like, "Your city? Like you think you're the mayor of Jacksonville?" Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of weird that Florida is now becoming like a hockey hotspot because it's like we don't even have natural like ice rinks, like where our lakes are never gonna freeze. But I feel like in order for it to become an actual school team, they'd have to build an arena.
Yeah,
here.
I mean they're sharing a practice arena.
At FAU, they can't do it off campus.
Well, or like build it somewhere
near. They're playing the Florida Panthers.
Because they play at the Panthers Ice Den.
I was gonna say Sunday, yeah, Ice Den.
Which is actually so cool.
Yeah.
Like I've been to a couple of games there, and it's just
Wait,
it's cool.
Is that the practice facility?
It's their practice facility.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool, like getting to be like, oh, this is actually where the Panthers practice.
That would be so cool, though, honestly, to see. Because I don't know how they do it, like up in like Minnesota or whatnot for like their hockey, but it would be cool to see if they can convert the basketball arena to us like a hockey arena. That'd be so cool.
Make us a hockey school.
That'd be so cool. Fun. Brian White, athletic director Brian White, you know what to do. Get an ice rink in the alley. That would be so cool.
But, I mean, yeah, I don't know how it would be possible or if that's even something that they're thinking about.
I think it would be good. I mean, they have a huge audience.
They should honestly consider it because
they have an audience.
The fact that now this season they have a Division 3 team and then their records this season, I can't off the top of my head tell you how they did last season, but I know that they also held like a winning record, and they had 2 players too go to the All-Star European team, which is really cool. Congrats to them.
I heard one of them, like the goalie, I think, just came back.
Rocco.
Rocco Bruno just came back from like a European, European tour or something with like the college hockey south or whatever.
Yeah, he was one of the players that was selected for it.
Yeah, so they have good players.
He was the first player that was even selected for the team. But yeah, actually, I saw Michigan State's hockey it was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, because their hockey team's really good. They
is it at the same place as the basketball arena? Because I know pro teams do that.
It's right next to it.
Oh, they have like a whole separate arena?
Yeah, but they have their own gym inside of there. And they have like a plaque with all of their records, and it was just, and when we went, it was for the FAU, the football game at the beginning of the year, and their hockey team was giving out free hot dogs. So shout out them, we got some free food. But we also have softball and baseball starting soon. Tomorrow is actually their media day, and last season the baseball team went 28-29. Yeah, so they're just on the cusp of having a winning season. But softball last year did incredible. They were 41-16, and they actually made it. They were defeated in the first round of the AAC tournament.
Wait, I thought they won the conference.
No, they won.
Yeah, they won the conference. They lost in the first round.
I misspoke. They lost in the first round of the NCAA regional. So they won the conference tournament. No, they won the conference, but they did lose first round in the tournament. But because they secured the regular season conference title, they made it to the Gainesville regional, which they hadn't been there it was a long time. So do we have any expectations, for their baseball or for softball? I know I personally don't really keep up with baseball. Last season I did a couple of softball since they were having success. and I covered their loss in the Gainesville Regional, which was unfortunate, but who knows, maybe they'll be back again this season.
Yeah, my freshman year I did a lot of stuff for baseball, then sophomore year kind of like died out a little bit. And this semester, my also goal is like started covering a lot more softball and also baseball games. But I know for my freshman year, when Nolan Shanuel was on the team, shout out Nolan, who's tearing it at the Los Angeles Angels. When he was on the team, they were they had a winning record. I think like 4 or so games above 500. Still lost like within their conference tournament. But I mean, their head coach, I know John McCormick, has been with them I think for over like 12, 13 years. He's been for a long time.
Yeah.
And like he's built a lot of great players. There's a lot of pro. If you look up like FAU Owls turn pro in baseball, there's a lot of guys on there right now. Pedro Pages, I think Pajes, or my apologies if I'm mispronouncing the last name, but he's not right now with the St. Louis Cardinals. There are a lot of guys who are now pro who came from the FAU baseball program, and he just built like a practice facility, new practice facility for the baseball team as well. So baseball is starting to gain a lot of revenue, a lot of attention. But softball right now, I mean, I think Coach Jordan Clark is I think in her second year. First year 41.
She just last year was her second season.
Third year, but with 41-16 last season. I heard right now. I remember Liz Hay, shout out Liz, who's the sports director for Owl Radio. She recently did a show, her first show, interviewing Kylie Chanel, who I think she said I think Liz told me is like right now in the preseason 14 nationally as shortstop. So there are great players on that team.
No, I remember hearing about Chanel. She was featured on the that like FAU show that
inside the Burrow.
Yeah, inside the Burrow.
Yeah, but Frankfurt.
Because last season she was a freshman and she was brought in and she did great.
Yeah.
And I mean, talking about coaches doing well in their first 2 seasons, Jordan Clark, she holds a 76-36 record in 2 years. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I need to get more into baseball and softball. I wasn't last year, but I'm definitely going to pay attention this year. All I know about for baseball is I know they had a lot of their pitchers injured.
Yeah, I also heard like your top player or top pitcher, Hunter. Oh my God, I forgot his last name, but he was there for a couple of years, and I think he either got injured or something like senior year, and then became like a graduate like assistant or something. So he's like helping out with the pitchers and whatnot. I heard like the pitchers love him a lot. So like there is also a good thing with the program, like trying to bring in players who like now get into coaching. Like, hey, we can let you like learn to coach. That's great to see. And softball, I mean, I think you could be a softball school. I mean, they're going to be playing against like some tough opponents. I've been looking at their schedule. They're playing back-to-back classics. They're playing against Ole Miss and Clemson, which I don't know exactly like overall like how well that is like in softball, but I do know like almost any type of sport, if it's an SEC or Big Ten school, they're probably going to be good. It's like Ole Miss and Clemson playing there, Minnesota as well, NC State, Louisville, like these big name programs they're playing against, and then starting their conference tournament a little bit later on. But like they're playing against them in like the Austin Peay Invitational later and on. They're playing the Stetson Invitational. They're playing in they're hosting the Joe and Joyce Classic, named after their longtime softball head coach, Joe and Joyce, RIP. The Paradise Classic they're opening up with. So they're playing against a lot of big schools, hosting these classics back to back, and they're starting this I think 2 weeks from now, I think February 6th, Thursday, 4:30 at the softball arena, so softball stadium. So they're playing against some big name schools to kickstart their season. So I feel like they're I bet you could possibly be a softball school, because I mean they're hosting these invitationals and playing against these big name programs.
Yeah. Well, it's good. I'm sure that they purposefully built their schedule like that because of how they did last season. And it's actually cool, too, for the softball team. One of their now assistant coaches, she was a former player, Caitlin DeLeon, I believe. DeLeon? Okay. I always mess up names. I'm sorry. But, yeah, she played for them last season, and now she's an assistant coach.
I heard, also Gabby, I know, Gabby Sacco, the pitcher, is also, a big player for them. Her and Jessiana Mora, I know they're, some, the top players for that team as well. So they got good players. They got ballers on their team, as Sophia Camacho as well. They got, great players on their team. So FAU is going to is like having like huge success in softball as well. Something like could be a hockey school, could be men's basketball, could be softball school. We don't know, but I mean like there are other parts like of the athletics that are like not getting so much like attention, but should be, particularly for softball, because just how much success they're having, and it's amazing to see just how this. I'm looking forward definitely to the softball and baseball seasons to start, especially because I love their schedules, because almost all the times is like 3 games, or like for softball it's like back-to-back classics, and those are like 8 games.
They have like the most insane schedules. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I know that the pitchers like rotate, they don't play every game.
Yeah.
But all the other players, I would be exhausted.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I want a break after 2 days straight.
I'll be exhausted, like just like wearing kind of the cotton uniforms, whatever like material it's made of, out in like before the sun, like
and
80,
pants.
Yeah, like 80 degrees, because in the baseball arena, not arena, baseball stadium, I'll be like sitting there under like their tent table they have for the media, and like the sun going down, hitting my face the entire time. And I'm like, just mad at that for softball because they don't have a tent for media. So you're just like sitting there in the crowd, like either typing on your computer or like calling the game. It's like the sun's hitting you the entire time.
Yeah. I don't know. That's why if you're in Florida, like I chose an indoor sport. I'm not choosing.
I always said if I was gonna be like an athlete at all, I would definitely want to do something like I'm like indoors, like basketball or something, like at least like a little bit air conditioned or something, like not the sun or like the weather being a factor at all. Like you can be like in Tennessee where it's like snowing and you're just playing a basketball game, like nothing's happening. Versus like you're playing outdoor sports, like okay, we gotta halt everything off.
Yeah. What sport would you guys pick? Like.
I think just because my size and height, probably basketball. But I did like a couple basketball camps. I'm not really athletic, but I did some basketball camps, and they always put me at center, and I was so bad at it.
Really?
So I just like kind of. The reason I'm doing sports media because I'm really not an athlete, but I love sports. I'm like, let me just go to media because like I'm not athletic, might as well like work for like sports
Morgan,
media.
What would you pick?
I've always been interested in archery.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
like the last thing that I was expecting.
What?
No, I could see you as like a pitcher probably, because a lot of pitchers are tall. Like, you can like tall and like throw in like the curveball and whatnot.
I just started getting into baseball like last season.
Okay. Yeah, I don't.
What about you? I know you said you did basketball, you did volleyball before.
Oh, I would go back to volleyball.
Back to volleyball?
Sure. Actually, I wanted to play softball. That was like what I tried to play, but then they didn't have enough people for the team. So they were like, do you want to play basketball? And I said, sure.
No, you could be like, no, I want to play for the baseball team. I want to play for the baseball team.
Well, and then I was put on an all-boys basketball team. Like, I don't know. It was,
that's good.
No, it was not fun.
I think another underrated sport I would play is badminton. Badminton's awesome, if you've ever played badminton.
What?
The silence? You know what I'm talking about? You know what badminton is? Okay.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
No, it's not.
What do you mean?
Okay.
But you do know they're making like they have like 2. I didn't know they had 2 pro volleyball leagues out there. I had no idea until like just recently.
Yeah, like, they have one out of Orlando.
Yeah, there's like the League One volleyball, the Pro Volleyball Federation. I think there's like one more. I heard they're also making like a softball, like pro softball league too, which I'm like they should, because to me I never got where it was like typically you see like in the Olympics like people like in those pro volleyball teams, and it's like okay, but it's like after college. Like really, what else are you doing for like volleyball? It's like no pro sports. So now I'm like, well, I feel like for softball and volleyball, I was like, after college, like not really having like pro teams to go to. So it's like, what are you really gonna like do? Is like kind of confusing. So I think now like making like a pro softball league too, which would be very interesting to see because we got like big name programs like Texas, Oklahoma are building amazing players for their programs in softball, and I'm like, then what are they gonna do when they graduate? Where are they gonna go to? It's like no pro leagues.
Yeah.
So. That'd be fun to see.
Well, besides softball and baseball, beach volleyball is also going to be starting back up. Last season they were 18 and 19, so they were 2 and 4 in the conference. For beach volleyball, it's a lot different compared to indoor. They do just like tournaments instead of, actually having like conference games.
To me, I feel like beach volleyball would be so difficult to play with.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
No, I was gonna say because like for people, of course, and people in Florida who know like who go to the beach and whatnot, it is difficult as hell to walk on sand a couple of times. And, like you try and run around.
Yeah.
Your word. Yeah, no, it's definitely difficult. I mean, it's a really good like physical activity, but honestly, it's kind of more fun than indoor because like. There's only 2 of you.
Yeah.
So you get to do everything, which I liked. But for beach volleyball, their first game will be February 21st. So good luck to them too, starting this season. And I think that it's about time to kind of wrap things up. So, in conclusion, what did we learn today? I think that FAU needs to become a softball and a hockey school. We can just drop to other sports.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll see you guys next week. So, peace.
Peace.
That was an awkward way to wrap this up.
Yeah.